Meow, the play's the thing.
All the world's a stage.
I'm Huples Cat. Let's find out what the real tragedy of the First Folio is.
Here's a tale told by an idiot.
Is the idiot me, Huples Cat, or you for watching this video? No, according to William Shakespeare of Stratford-upon-Avon, England, the idiot is all of humanity. But did William Shakespeare write Shakespeare? Yeah, he did. The evidence is actually pretty much overwhelming that there's no doubt that William Shakespeare existed and largely wrote the plays and sonnets attached to his name. This one by a non-academic American is actually well worth a read if you're not convinced that Shakespeare is Shakespeare. But no matter who wrote Shakespeare, the works themselves are the bedrock of English culture. The works themselves are probably immortal. There has been nothing like the First Folio before or since.
Soft. What light through yonder window breaks? It's the east. Juliet is the sun.
Most people in our culture actually experience Shakespeare by reading things like this in high school. But William Shakespeare never wrote his plays for them to be read like a book. Now most of you have probably never heard of this one, and it's not very good, and like several famous Shakespeare plays isn't complete. For example, Macbeth has a substantial amount of the plot missing. Did you know that? This is a reprint 200 years later. The language changes, it's becoming more like our language.
I hope you have no intent to turn husband. I will live a bachelor.
A dear happiness to women.
My contention is that our children would be better served by actually watching plays that actors are in that are doing the plays rather than trying to learn the text.
Can you come near? If I suspect without cause why they make sport of me, then let me be your jest. I deserve it. How now, whither bear you this?
To the laundress, forsooth.
Why? What have you to do with it? They bear it. You were best meddle with buck washing.
Buck. I would I could wash myself at the buck. Buck! 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 I, Buck. I warrant you. Buck! No!
Come you to part the fray.
Rise, Grumio, rise. We will compound this quarrel.
If this be not a lawful cause for me to leave his service, look you, sir, he bid me knock him and rap him soundly, sir. Well, was it fit for a servant to use his master so, being perhaps, for aught I see, 32 a peep out?
A senseless villain. Good Hortensio, I bade the rascal knock upon your gate, and could not get him for my heart to do it.
Knock at the gate. Oh. Heavens. Spake you not these words plain, Sirrah, knock me here, rap me here, knock me well, and knock me soundly, and come you now with knocking at the gate?
Sirrah, be gone, or talk not, I advise you.
Petruchio, patience. I am Grumio's pledge. By this a heavy chance twixt him and you, your ancient, trusty, pleasant servant, Grumio. Tell me now, sweet friend, what happy gale blows you to Padua here from old Verona?
Such wind as scatters young men through the world.
Young men.
To seek their fortunes farther than at home, where small experience grows, but in a few. Signor Hortensio, thus it stands with me. Antonio, my father, is deceased.
Now if you haven't already, you probably should go and get a coffee and a vegan snack. This might be a little long, but you're going to enjoy it. First Folio was gathered 7 years after William Shakespeare died by a couple of his friends. It didn't sell like hotcakes, but it sold okay. It sold out 750 copies. As far as we know, only 233 copies survive to this day. Here's my copy, a beautiful reproduction of the First Folio. Sadly, it's not worth 10 million, but even if it was an actual one of the 233, I would be very hard pressed to sell it. I don't think cultural things like this actually have a value other than what they represent, the ideas that they represent. And what does this represent? It is, of course, just a bunch of plays. William Shakespeare, in his plays, captured almost the entirety of human emotional experience, and in a way, it still resonates very hard with us today. At the time of his death, William Shakespeare wasn't valued as a cultural icon, nor were his plays particularly valued. Crucially, there was no doubt whatsoever in everybody's mind back then that he wrote the plays. It's estimated, at the height of his fame, about an eighth of the city population of London at the time would see his plays at least once a week. An eighth of the entire population would see a Shakespeare play at least once a week. That's pretty viral. We go to the plays and they would stand there and watch the round stage, and they would interact with both themselves and also with the actors on a frequent basis. It was very impromptu. Plays like the Scottish play were very popular.
Come what, come may. Time and the hour runs through the roughest today.
Lady Macbeth, we stay upon your leisure.
Give me your favour, my dull brain was wrought with things forgotten. Kind gentlemen, your pains are registered where every day I turn the leaf to read them. Let's talk the king.
Where's your husband?
I hope in no place so unsanctified where such as thou mayst find him.
He's a traitor.
Thou lie, thou-shaggy villain!
What? You, eh? Huh?
He has killed me, mother. Run away, I pray you.
The tragedy of the First Folio isn't that the language is difficult to understand in 2023, or that Shakespeare invented so many new words and phrases, over 1,300, that it's hard to follow what he's saying. More than 407 years after his death, many of those phrases remain in almost daily use by most people and are comprehended by pretty much everybody.
Wherefore was that cry?
The Queen, my lord, is dead.
She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow. And tomorrow. And tomorrow. Creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays of lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out. Out. Brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage. And then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Part of the thrill of going to see the play was that if you were seeing a tragedy, you could almost guarantee there'd be really good slasher horror. For example, Titus Andronicus.
The eldest son of this distressed queen.
Gracious conqueror, victorious Titus, rue the tears I shed. A mother's tears in passion for her son. And if thy sons were ever dear to thee, oh, think my son to be as dear to me. Sufficeth not that we are brought to Rome to beautify thy triumphs and return captive to thee and to thy Roman yoke, but must my sons be slaughtered in the streets for valiant doings in their country's cause? Oh, if to fight for king and commonweal were piety in thine, it is in these! Andronicus, stain not thy tomb with blood. Wilt thou draw near the nature of the gods? Draw near them then in being merciful. Sweet mercy is nobility's true badge. Thrice noble Titus, spare my firstborn son!
Patient yourself, madam.
Shakespeare is of course English and patriotic and was one of the glues that held the empire together. Many school children in very different parts of the world studied the rise and fall of King Henry V by the three plays and felt that they were also part of a greater thing called England. Of course, most curricula set Henry IV Part 1 and 2 and Henry V to try and encourage children not to be drunkards. Oh, and by the way, copyright I couldn't use of The King with Timothy Chalamet. It's an okay film, but it takes horrendous liberties with the plot in such a way that I felt that The King, Timothy Chalamet, is actually made much smaller than the character Shakespeare wrote.
We now had here but 1/10,000 of those men in England that do not work today.
What's he that wishes so? My cousin Westmoreland? No, my fair cousin. If we are marked to die, we are enough to do our country loss. And if to live the fewer men, the greater share of honor. God's will, I pray thee, wish not one man more.
However, this version of the same thing is actually very textually accurate, but it's not my favourite at all. My favourite rendition of this play? Well, it's not the play, it's lines from the play. I offer you what follows because it's the emotional meaning of the plays that connect.
Front and center! Private Benitez, New York! You study Shakespeare?
Drill sergeant, yes, drill sergeant.
All right, let me hear some. Go! I said I want to hear some. Let's go.
You keep it down, you're gonna lose it. He that lives.
Come on, what? What was that? I can't hear it. Come on, go!
He that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand a tiptoe when this day is named and rouse him at the name of Crispian.
I didn't tell you to stop. Keep going. Keep going. Go!
He that shall live this day and see old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbors and say, tomorrow is St. Crispian. Then will he strip his sleeves, show his scars, and say, these wounds I had on St. Crispian's day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot. But he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day. Then shall our names, familiar in his mouth as household words, Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, be in their flowing cups freshly remembered. And this story shall the good man teach his son, and Crispian shall ne'er go by, from this day to the ending of the world. But we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. and gentlemen in England now abed shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whiles any speaks who fought with us upon St. Crispin's Day. Not enough, Drill Sergeant?
Yes, Benitez. Good.
Yet what is the tragedy of the First Folio? The plays are meant to be acted and watched and interacted with. They're not meant to be read like a novel. You miss most of the meaning if you do it that way.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honourable man, so are they all honourable men, come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. He hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When that the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff, yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure he is an honourable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason.
It's fairly obvious that Brutus is not an honourable gentleman. It's the silence and the pauses and the gestures that make Shakespeare Shakespeare. Do you want to see naked ambition for power?
I'll make my heaven to dream upon the crown, and whiles I live to account this world but hell. And yet I know not how to get the crown, for many lives stand between me and home, and I, like one lost in a thorny wood, that rents the thorns and is rent with the thorns, seeking a way and straying from the way, not knowing how to find the open air, but toiling desperately to find it out, torment myself to catch the English crown, and from that torment I will free myself, or hew my way out with a bloody axe. Why, I can smile and murder while I smile. I can add colours to the chameleon, change shapes with Proteus for advantages, and set the murderous Machiavel to school. Can I do this and cannot get a crown? Tut! Were it further off, I'll pluck it down.
I had, of course, to use Hamlet, but the real beauty in the Hamlet, the Danish play, is in fact the role of Ophelia. Ophelia is the true beauty of Hamlet and is the character that probably should be studied much more than the prince himself.
To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing, end them. To die. To sleep no more. and by asleep, to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life.
To be or not to be? That is the question, etc., etc. Very famous. But did you know it's about suicide? The actor is contemplating killing himself rather than having to deal with the pain of the exterior world. Fairly sure generations of schoolchildren have studied that part of the play and not understood what he's talking about is whether to kill himself or not. Not really PC in our age now, is it? Yet the light comedies, not that anything were really particularly light of Shakespeare, actually also allow for fantastic acting within them.
I left no ring with her. What means this lady? Fortune forbid my outside hath not charmed her. She made good view of me, indeed so much that sure methought her eyes had lost their tongue, for she did speak in starts, distractedly. She loves me, sure. The cunning of her passion invites me in this churlish messenger. None of my lord's ring? Why, he sent her none. I am the man. If it be so, as 'tis, poor lady, she were better love a dream. Disguise, I see thou art a wickedness wherein the pregnant enemy does much. How easy is it for the proper false in women's waxen hearts to set their forms? Alas, our frailty is the cause, not we. For such as we are made of, such we be. Well, this fadge. My master loves her dearly, and I, poor monster, fond as much on him, and she, mistaken, seems to dote on me. What will become of this? As I am man, my state is desperate for my master's love. As I am woman, now, alas the day, what thriftless sighs shall poor Olivia breathe? O time, thou must untangle this, not I. 'Tis too hard a knot for me to untie.
The Merchant of Venice is actually quite racist in parts, and for that reason it's not very popular anymore. But its main message was about capitalism, accumulative capitalism, having no humanity and being horrible to people and not a great thing to worship. And unaltered, The Merchant of Venice does allow Shylock to express the frustration, pain and anger that people in the minority who are despised feel.
Signor Antonio, many a time and oft in the Rialto you have rated me about my moneys and my usances. Still have I borne it with a patient shrug, for sufferance is the badge of all our tribe. You call me misbeliever, cutthroat dog, and spat upon my Jewish gabardine, and all for use of that which is mine own. Well, then it now appears you need my help. Go to then, you come to me and you say, Shylock, we would have monies. You say so. You, that did void your room upon my beard, and foot me as you spurn a stranger cur over your threshold. Monies is your suit. What should I say to you? Should I not say, hath a dog money? Is it possible a cur can lend 3,000 ducats? Or shall I bend low, and in a bondsman's key, with bated breath and whispering humbleness, say this? Oh, fair sir, you spat on me on Wednesday last. You spurned me such a day. Another time you called me dog. And for these courtesies, I'll lend you thus much money.
The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. 'Tis mightiest in the mightiest. It becomes the throned monarch better than his crown. His sceptre shows the force of temporal power, the attribute to awe and majesty, wherein doth sit the dread and fear of kings. But mercy is above this sceptred sway. It is enthroned in the hearts of kings. It is an attribute to God himself, and earthly power doth then show likest gods, when mercy seasons justice. Therefore, Jew, though justice be thy plea, consider this, that in the course of justice none of us should see salvation. We do pray for mercy, and that same prayer doth teach us all to render the deeds of mercy. I have spoke thus much to mitigate the justice of thy plea, which if thou follow, this strict court of Venice must needs give sentence against the merchant there.
Ah, pure youthful attraction.
Thou knowest the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek for that which thou hast heard me speak tonight. Fain would I dwell on form, fain deny what I have spoke, but farewell compliment. Dost thou love me? I know thou wilt say aye, and I will take thy word. But if thou swearest thou mayst prove false, at lovers' perjuries they say Jove laughs. Gentle Romeo, if thou dost love, pronounce it faithfully, or if thou thinkst I am too quickly won, I'll frown and be perverse and say thee nay, so thou wilt woo, but else not for the world. In truth, fair Montague, I am too fond, and therefore thou mayst think my haviour light. But trust me, gentlemen, I'll prove more true than those that have more cunning to be strange. I should have been more strange. But I must confess, but that thou overheardst ere I was ware my true love's passion. Therefore pardon me, and not impute this yielding to light love, which the dark night hath so discovered.
By the way, Star-Crossed is right. The beauty of Romeo and Juliet is Shakespeare completely subverts the audience's expectation and gives all the thought process feeling to simply put Juliet. All Romeo is just a singly boring, I love you, I love you. And Shakespeare inverted male and female quite often in his plays for both tragic and comedic effect. So see the plays. Don't read them until you've seen the play at least once or twice. You're not going to get anything out of it. Any version of any of the Shakespeare plays in whatever format is absolutely fine. Relax and let the words sink into you. Don't expect to sit there and fully comprehend what's going on right away. Have a vague idea of the plot and the outline of the main actors will help you. My two favourite plays are Cymbeline and Pericles, but I have to pick Pericles just because it's all about pirates. Pirates. And it actually has quite a lot of interesting things in it that are still very relevant in 2023. So reading a random page, as heaven had lent her all his grace, with whom the father liking took, and her to incest did provoke. Bad child, worse father, to entice his own to evil, should be done by none. Yeah, pirates. Incest. This stuff is heavy. For some reason, Pericles remains sadly underperformed.
Yet cease your ire, you angry stars of heaven! Wind, rain, and thunder, remember, earthly man is but a substance that must yield to you, and I, it's been my nature to obey you! With a chicken riddle, big fish eat the little, that's the fisherman's philosophy. With the pig and fiddle, there's fish on the griddle, swear it all came out of the sea.
I am a maid, my lord, had ne'er before invited eyes but have been gazed on like a comet. She speaks, my lord. That may be hath endured a grief might equal yours if both were justly weighed. The way which fortune did malign my state, my derivation was from ancestors who stood equivalent with mighty kings. But time hath rooted out my parentage, and to the world and awkward casualties bound me in servitude. I will desist. But there is something close upon my cheek and whispers in my ear.
Will not till he speak.
Now you have to mention a certain sci-fi franchise called Star Trek. Cry havoc and let you loose the dogs of war was actually a very effective line in one of those films. It wasn't the only time they actually talked and covered Shakespeare.
I offer a toast. The undiscovered country. The future.
The undiscovered country.
Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1.
You have not experienced Shakespeare until you have read him in the original Klingon.
Tach, pa, tach, be.
I don't think he's right, but anyway, if he is, you can judge. Here is the original Klingon.
Tach, pag, tach, be. Dag moeilijk van bekennis.
Tach, pag, tach, be. Dag moeg, krekban bekennis. Kuva, yadak, shanbakcha, puje shikti. Pag, shing, bechache, shuv me, nuch me, shukti. Edge, shuv mo, rin mochti.
The alteration of words is also why Shakespeare is relevant and important. The play is a thing, whether it's phases and torpedoes or the original language, it does not matter. It's the emotional content and intent of the actor that makes it great. It should alter over time. Shakespeare wrote as a collaboration. He took from wherever he could and made it uniquely his own. But Shakespeare's own name, he changed multiple times during his life. English was in a state of flux at that time. Language should be a fluid thing, not a fixed thing. When we anchor text via print as a fixed thing, when we say nobody can perform the Scottish play or Cymbeline without using exactly the words that are in this First Folio, we spit on William Shakespeare. Adaptation is critical in acting. It has to be so.
Grim-visaged war has smoothed his wrinkled front.
Think now what I would speak.
Say on, Your Majesty.
Why, Buckingham, I say I would be king.
Well, to end this, and to thank you for watching, we need but only remember, like as the waves make toward the pebbled shore, so do our minutes hasten to the end, each changing place with that which goes before. Oh, and if you hated this, get out there and see some Shakespeare play. Doesn't matter if it's professional or unprofessional. Shakespeare is well worth seeing.
Our revels now are ended. And these are actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits, and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherits, shall dissolve. And like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on. And our little life is rounded with a sleep.
If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended, that you have but slumbered here, while these visions did appear. And this weak and idle theme, no more yielding but a dream. Gentles, do not reprehend. If you pardon, we will mend. And as I am an honest puck, if we have unearned luck now to scape the serpent's tongue, we will make amends ere long. Else the puck a liar call. So, good night unto you all. Give me your hands if we be friends, and Robin shall restore amends.
This is a Wolfie's Hamlet production 2023.